We spoke in the previous recording one approach to the question of what is the Yishmael Hamas connection. In the Torah, in Sefer Bereshit, we find the word Hamas a couple of times. The first time we spoke about in the first recording is by the destruction, by the flood, the violence and the stealing, the gezel that Rashi speaks about, taking things that aren't even worth anything, just a pure evil that leads to destruction of the world with the flood. So now, B'ezrat Hashem, I want to try to give a different approach to the Yishmael Hamas connection to see, Yishmael we know is this pere Adam. He was told by the Malach that he's going to be this wild pere, but is there maybe a tighter connection to the word Hamas and Yishmael that might relate a little bit to today's times? Okay, so I want to go back to Parashat Lech Lecha. And let's go back to the story of when Sarai Imenu can't have kids, and she goes to Abraham, take my maidservant Hagar the Mitzrit, according to the Midrash, the princess of Egypt, the daughter of Paro, take this maidservant and marry her, and maybe, she'll be like a surrogate mother, and I'll have a child through her. And then immediately Hagar gets pregnant. But then after Hagar gets pregnant, she's very haughty, and she looks down at Sarai and says, "Oh, I'm the chosen wife. You were never the chosen one, Sarah. But look at me. I gave it all up. I left Egypt behind. I left the kingship, the imahaot, in order to be a maidservant for you. And now Hashem blessed me because I'm like the more holy one." And ultimately, she starts to be haughty in the eyes of Sarah. So now Sarah gets upset and she comes to Avram. Now the names are still Sarai and Avram. The names haven't been changed yet. This is before the Brit Milah. And but Tomer Sarai al Avram. Sarai goes to her husband Avram. She goes, Avram, Hamasi alecha. I have Hamas because of you. I have Hamas against you. Hamas because of you. Anochi natati shifchati b'chaikecha. I gave you this maidservant. I gave it to you for you. V'terek yarata and v'akel be'enea. And see, she became pregnant and now I've been lowered in her eyes. She makes fun of me. She's haughty above me. Yishpot Adonai beini uveinecha. May God decide, may He judge between me and you. Very harsh words of Sarah Imenu, but she tells Avram Avinu, Hamasi, Chet Mem Samach Yud, Hamasi, I have Hamas against you, I have anger against you, I'm upset about you, I've been wronged because of you. The different nuances on what she's saying, but she's saying, Hamasi, Alecha Hamas because of you. We're going to get back to this word in a second, but already we're beginning to see a little bit of a Hamas connection to the story. Okay, but then what happens? So Avram says, Avram Sarai, she says, Avram says to Sarai, take your maidservant, she's in your hand, Asila Tov be'enayich, go do what's good in your eyes. You're in charge of her, she's your servant. And Avram just basically takes a step to the side and says, Sarah, you are in charge. And then what happens? Sarai treats her harshly. She afflicts her. Ta'anea could be a very strong word at times. Although I think I saw some said that, what do you mean that she treated her harshly? She treated her like a maidservant. And when a maidservant thinks she's already like the greatest woman in the world, and she's like the greatest wife, just treating her like a maidservant already feels very harsh. But many other Mefarshim, we're going to see in a second, learning that she treated her much harsher. But tivrach mi panea, and then Hagar runs away. And then we know that Hagar runs away. The angel is going to reveal himself to Hagar, saying, why did you run away? She says, because my master was afflicting me. He says, go back, be afflicted. You're going to be blessed with a child. He's going to be a pere Adam. He's going to be this wild ass man. Yado Bakol, his hand's going to be in everybody. Everyone's going to be in him. He's going to make a lot of problems. But you're going to have this son Yishmael, and then Hagar goes back, and Yishmael is born. Now, so we have this story, 2 psukim, where Sarah says to Avraham, Chamasi alecha. And then Avram says, no, you know what? She's yours. And then Sarai was a little bit difficult with her. Now, there's a scary Ramban, which is scary. It's actually a machloket. There are many that will argue on this Ramban because it's a little bit harsh. But I think it's important to read the Ramban. You actually find it not only in the Ramban, you could find this as well in this ideas that we find it in the Radak. We also find it a little bit in the Balaturim. But really, the Ramban is the first one to really spell it out. He says, what does it mean? That Sarai was dealt hardly with her. She afflicted her a little bit, and then Hagar ran away. Sarai was difficult with her, and she ran away. Says the Ramban, scary words. Chata'a imenu be'inoi hazeh. Our mother, Chata'a Sarah imenu, our mother, she sinned with this afflictions that she was acting harshly. V'gam Avraham banichot alasot ken, and so too Avraham sinned by letting her do this. Meaning Avraham shouldn't have let her be so harsh with Hagar. V'shama Adonai et Onya, and we see that Hashem heard the pain and suffering of Hagar. V'natan la ben she per Adam, and that's why the angel reveals himself to Hagar by the water and says, you're going to have a son that's a per Adam. You're going to have this wild ass man. Why? La'anot zera Avraham v'Sara b'chol menei inui. Because just like Sarah afflicted Hagar is now going to merit to have a son, Yishmael, who's going to be a pere Adam, this wild man, who's now going to afflict back against the Jewish people. So it's a pretty scary pasuk, because we have this whole concept of like Hamasi alecha. There's Hamas against you, but God judge. And then it seems to be over here, according to the Ramban, the judgment wasn't necessarily in our favor, and instead we're going to have a Hamas against us, midah keneged midah. Okay, that would be a negative read. But on the other hand, I did see a positive read that maybe we'll read it in a different kind of way. And I saw this is a sefer called Trog She'alav Dibra Torah by a rabbi named Tzemach Yitzchak ben Yosef Yitzchak Levi. Okay, so this rabbi Tzemach Yitzchak, he says as follows. He says in the positive way, he says, no, let's not learn Sarah Imenu negative. That's one approach. We don't want to learn in the negative way. Let's learn Sarah Imenu in the positive way. That what is she saying to Abraham? Hamasi alecha. Avram didn't realize the danger that comes with Agar, and didn't realize what danger is going to come out. Avram didn't realize that Yishmael is going to be born, and the bnei Yishmael and future generations are going to be so hard. Should we say? So Sarah is yelling at him, Hamasi alecha. You have to understand, there's Hamas involved in this. It's going to be the worst, terrible stuff. The stuff that destroyed the world in the first flood, that's going to happen again. Hamasi alecha. There's Hamas over here because of you. What are you doing, Abraham? And ultimately, she was right, and that's why Avraham says, "Okay, fine, send her away." We find a lot of times that the mothers are much more careful. Their eyes are much more exact. Rivka is going to be the one to understand that Eisav is the bad son. So Sarah is the one that understands Yishmael is not the right one, and she's telling Avraham, "You got to get rid of him because he's going to be Hamas," and she was right. So in this case, it's not a midah keneged punishment, but rather it's her understanding, it's her nevuah. And we see in the Torah, the simple read of the Torah, which is why many people question the Ramban, is because God keeps agreeing with Sarah and says whatever she says. When Sarah says later on to get rid of Yishmael, God says, listen to her. Everything she says is correct. She knows what she's talking about. So when she's yelling Hamasi alecha, it's not a punishment. She's saying, no. I can see what this kid is all about. I see where this is going to go. I see where his mother's doing. I see what he's doing. And she was right. And ultimately, sadly, he's going to turn out to this and give us this whole big difficulty later on. Okay. But then I heard a different idea from this rabbi named Aviel Me'oded. I've never heard this rabbi before, but he gave a shiur on these words, Hamasi alecha, and he learned the word Hamasi alecha a little bit differently. He learned Hamasi as the word Hamasi is Hamas Yud. Hamasi is Chet Mem Samech, the first three letters, Hamas, and then there's one more letter at the end, Yud, which means my Hamas. But here he's saying, no, learn it as Hamas Yud. What is Hamas Yud? That Hamas, we learned from Rashi and Parshat Noach, is to steal, it's to do gezel, it's to steal. So he says what Sarah Imenu was saying to Avraham is that Hamas is trying to steal the Yud. She's trying to steal the Kiddush. Yud a lot of times symbolizes Kiddushah. We'll get to that in one more second. But we see in the world today, the Hamas of today, they're Allahu Akbar, they're fighting for God. It's always about God. We're the most holy ones. We're the most holy ones. The Yud symbolizes the holiness. Where do we find that? We actually find that in this week's Parashat Toldot. We said in previous years, an unbelievable Dvar Torah from the Rami Pano. We know in this week's Parashat we're going to be introduced to Yaakov and Eisav. And the Torah tells us Yaakov is named Yaakov. Why? Because he grabbed onto the ekev, he grabbed onto the heel of Eisav. So when they were fighting who's going to come out first, Eisav goes kamikaze, comes out first, and Eisav becomes the Bechor, the firstborn. But Yaakov was grabbing onto his heel. Heel in Hebrew is ekev, so his name is Yaakov because he grabbed onto the ekev. But Eisav, why is Eisav called Eisav? So Eisav comes from the language of asui. Asui means to be ready-made. Like the word asa is to do. Asui means it's already ready-made because Eisav was already born ready-made. While Yaakov is the heel in spirituality, he wants to only grow and grow and grow until eventually he become Yisrael, the angel named fighting with angels and winning. Eisav is the exact opposite. He's like, I'm asui, I'm ready-made, I'm all good, I don't need any more spiritual growth. I am where I am. So ask the Ramami Pano, why is Yaakov called Yaakov? Shouldn't his name be Ekev? We have other rabbis in our history that use the name Ekev, like Rabbi Akiva. And we have another rabbi named Akavia ben Mahalalel. So we have other names. Why is there a Yud in the beginning of the word Ekev? And also he asks, why is Eisav called Eisav? He should be called Asui. Asui would be spelled Ayin Sin Vav Eisav with a Yud at the end, Asui. So what happened to the Yud of Asui? So explains Ramami Pano beautifully that what happens, there was a guy named Ekev. There was a baby named Ekev in the womb. Ekev, though, grabbed onto the heel of Asui. What is the heel of Asui? The last letter of Asui is the letter Yud. Ekev grabbed onto the Yud and took it for himself. And then Ekev became Yaakov. And in their names by itself, we have the whole history, the whole story that takes place in our parasha of Yaakov first getting the Bechor, the birthright, and then going and stealing the blessings from when Yitzchak gives the blessings, and he wanted to bless Eisav. Eisav. Yaakov takes it in still after Rivka tells him, go get the blessings. That's Yaakov taking the Yud. Now we know what is the Yud. The Yud first off is the first letter in God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Yud Kei and the Vav and the Kei. The first letter is the Yud. That's the Yud. The Yud also Chazal tells, Hey is Olam Hazeh, Yud is Olam Haba. That's the brachas. That's the minyan. That's the kedusha. It's the 10. The Yud is that holy, holy, holy letter. We spoke about it with Moshe Rabbeinu and all of his little Yuds everywhere. The Yud is a really big, holy, holy letter. And Yaakov understands I have to have the Yud, or more clearly, Rivka understands that you have to have the Yud. So now we can say, if we come back to our parsha, to relate it back to Yishmael. What's Yishmael doing now? Yishmael is trying to take the Yud. He's trying to say that I am the real Yud. The Yud is really mine. Now remember, Sarah's name in our parsha that we're speaking about in Lech Lecha, it's still Sarai. That Yud is going to disappear, be turned into a Hey when her name gets changed. What happens to that Yud of Sarai? Where does it go? So we know that Chazal are going to tell us it goes to Yoshua ben Nun. Yoshua ben Nun becomes Yoshua. She gives it to Yoshua, who's going to fight the wars against Amalek. But it seems to be from the Yishmael is trying to say, no. I'm the real Bechor. I deserve the real bracha. Just like the Eisav Yaakov story, so to Yishmael. He's Hamasi. He's Hamas Yud. He's saying the Yud is really mine. He's trying to steal Hamas Gezel. He's trying to steal the Yud for himself, arguing that I am really the firstborn. Now, this whole discussion of getting the Yud is very difficult. As we saw, the Ramban had a little bit of a negative read when it came to how difficult Sarah was acting. And we know the whole story of when Yaakov gets the blessings and he has to do it in this tricking kind of way. It also leads to a lot of shmutz and difficulties that, according to some midrashim, are going to lead to Yaakov's very difficult life. There's, when you're dealing with these are talking about big level brachas from God, which Rivka realized that the evil Eisav would get it, everything would be destroyed in our parsha. And Sarah realized that if Yishmael gets all these blessings, it's going to be really, really bad. But it comes with a lot of shmutz, it comes with a lot of difficulty, a lot of grayness, and in the grayness of the way you get the Yud, it comes with some punishment. Sometimes when you do the right thing, it's still going to come with difficulty in life. That's the sin of the eating of the etzadat tov v'ra. When we eat from the tree of good and evil, the whole world is now mixed with good and evil. So even in the good acts that we do, there's a little bit of grayness, a little bit of negativity that can come out of it, and that's a responsibility. Do you step it up and take the penalties that come with doing the right thing? It's a very hard thing for a leader to do, and we saw. So what happens? So Yaakov goes to his mother and he goes to mother, I'm nervous that my father is going to catch me when I'm trying to trick him to get Esav's beracha, to get the beracha of the firstborn, the beracha of the land of Israel. I'm worried that he's going to catch me because, I'm not as hairy, I'm not as this. And then once he gets catching me, what's going to happen? Alai kilala. I'm going to get cursed. Velo beracha. Instead of me getting a blessing, my Abba is going to curse me. So I'm very scared. Vatomer le'imo, says Rivka in our parasha, Alai kilatecha beni. On me is going to be the curse. Listen to me. Do what I say. Bring your father the food. Get the bracha. Get the yud. I'm going to take it upon myself, all those curses. Now, Chazal tell us there were curses over here. It's not simple. What's going to happen? When Yaakov finally is going to have to run away for his life, he's never going to make it back to see Rivka again. Rivka's going to die before he ever comes back. If we go back to our story with Sarai Imenu, the same thing happens. What does Sarai say? Sarai tells Avram, Sarai Avram, Hamasi alecha, the same words. Rivka said, alai, on me. So originally Sarai said to Avram, Hamasi alecha. The Hamas Yud, he's stealing the Yud. Take it upon yourself. Put it on your shoulders. Stop Yishmael. I know it's going to be difficult and it's hard for you and it can come with negativity. It can come with maybe some punishments and all these things. But please, don't let the evil Yishmael get the Yud. Vayomer Avram el Sarai. What does Avram say to Sarai? Hineh shivchatech beyadech. He says, no, you know what? She's your maidservant. She's beyadech. It's interesting. Beyadech is also the letters of beyudech. It's your yud. It's your thing to be dealing with. The yud is coming through you. He's giving it back to Sarai. He says, Sarai, you're in charge. And then Sarai gets in charge. That's when Sarah afflicts her. That's when Hagar runs away, and it's going to lead to maybe some negativity will come out of this with what's going to happen next with Yishmael's kids. But Sarah realizes this is the koach. This is the power of our imahaot, of our holy foremothers, that both Rivka and Sarah are willing to take it on their shoulders, even the difficulty that's going to come about with it. And actually, there's a scary Rabbeinu Bahaye that says that we know that Sarah Imenu is going to die young, and she's going to die at 127. Avram lives to 175. Why does she die so young? So says the Rabbeinu Bahaye, because when she used that language with Avraham, let Hashem yishpot Adonai beni uvenecha, let God judge between me and you. So you opened up the level of deen. Once you open up the level of deen, you open up the level of justice. Hashem judges everybody, and that's going to lead to Sarah Imenu having to die a little bit younger. But she realizes it was worth it. Sarah Yishmael realized it's worth it. Rivka Yishmael realized it's worth it. It's the zechut of our imahaot that made it sure their sacrifice. They sacrificed the end days of their lives, both of them, but they sacrificed it for the sake of the Yud being staying with the Jewish people. So we'll have that koch, we'll have that beracha, we'll have the land of Eretz Yisrael, and all the Reshaim out there that are trying to stop us aren't going to be able to. Shabbat Shalom.